Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our second lesson in civics and citizenship. I hope you're excited to get stuck in to learn a bit more. Today, today we're going to be looking at, we'll start reviewing what did we do, what did we learn yesterday? Yesterday, I hope we learned a bit about what it means to be a citizen of the country. We first of all learned an overview of the course, but then we really delved into this idea of, hopefully everyone defined those four words: civics, which is the study of how a society works; citizenship, which is one's status, so what country you belong to. We looked at values. Hopefully you got a definition of values. And today, I hope yesterday's real focus was on citizenship and understanding what it meant to be a citizen of a country. Because citizenship is often something that people try really hard to get, especially of Australia. It's incredibly hard to become a citizen here in Australia. You have to be exceptionally skilled. We are very picky about who comes from overseas to become a citizen. So it's a real privilege to be a citizen of Australia. It really is. We are the 11th wealthiest country in the world, or 13th. But given there's over 200 countries, so we are a very, very wealthy country, and we live an extremely fortunate life just by being born in this wonderful country. So that's what citizenship is anyway. It's belonging to a country. And today we're going to look through the values of Australia. So what do we value? That was one of the words I asked you to define, to get really solid in your head. So we're going to learn what the core values are. Hopefully you'll be able to list some of the values of Australia and explain a value of Australia. So before we go any further, what we're really doing now is we're looking at our country and we're looking at its culture, something that we have that's shared. But what is a culture? I'm just going to tell a really short story that demonstrates to us what culture is. So the story is about two young fish, and they're swimming upstream. They're swimming upstream, and they're just chatting away. How's your life? How's everything going? Really looking forward to what's up the stream. And they see a big fish swimming back down the other way. And the big fish goes to them, "Oh, you young fish, the water in the river is a bit clearer up the front, upstream if you keep going." And one of the little fish turned to the other and said, "Water? What's water?" And the idea around that is that culture is the same as water to those fish. So we exist, we go about our daily lives, and we really never think about what our culture is and how it works. The same way that a fish would never realize that it's swimming in water. It just thinks that's what the world is. It just thinks that is what the world is like. So today's, what we're trying to get out of today is we're trying to learn what our culture is, what some of our values are, some of the things that if you went to an Australian in the Northern Territory, somewhere in Darwin, and stopped them and said, "Do you think that this is important?" that they would say, "Oh yeah, that's something that's important because I'm an Australian." And if you went to Melbourne and you went down to someone and said, "Oh, do you think that this thing's important?" they'd say, "Oh yeah, definitely." So we're trying to find the things that are important to all of us, regardless of whether we live in Robinvale or where we live in Australia, the things that are really important to us. So what is a value? Just quickly, a value is something that's seen to be very important and useful to a group of people or an individual. So you may have different values to me, or you may have things that you value more strongly than the Australian values that we're looking at today. So you may really value education, or some cultures value education more than others. So some countries may not see it as important. Or you may think that trust and honesty, being honest, is the most important thing, whereas someone else may think that respecting someone else is much more important. So a value is something that's seen to be very important and useful to a group of people. So we're going to just quickly run through some of the Australian values before I set you off on a little task. So one value that we as a country see as super important is inclusion. And inclusion is what we really mean is including people. So if someone's from a different culture, not rejecting them, but including them in our culture as a country, but also individually on a day-to-day basis. If you are in the playground and someone's by themselves, it's a real value. People see it as very important to go to that person that's by themselves and to look out for them. It's a real value. It's something that we see as very important as a country. Freedom. Now, freedom, and so freedom is the ability to do what you want when you want. It's the ability to get up when you want, or to work when you want, or to travel where you'd like. It's the ability to drive wherever you want, whenever you want. And it's something that perhaps as kids you don't have that much of, but you and your parents would understand that it's very important. And this can stretch to much bigger things, very, very important things like freedom of religion, which we'll look at a bit more. But there are countries where you can't practice a certain religion. So you might not be able to be a Christian in some countries, or you might not be able to be a Muslim in another. And this idea of freedom, you can do what you want when you want, is super important to us as a country. Respect is another one. And this is probably less as a countrywide, but people to people. People expect that you will respect them, and we expect to give respect. It's a two-way street. You give it and you get it. So with respect, it is something that I think if you asked any Australian, that they would say that that is a very important part of our culture. And lastly, this is a really important one, and it's often very political, this one, which is the idea of a fair go. And a fair go means to be given the same opportunities, or if not the same, fair opportunities. So everybody should, if they set their mind to it in Australia, be able to go to get a really good job, or they should be able to start their own business, or they should be able to study a certain course, or they should be able to move somewhere without being stopped by anything. So a fair go really means to be treated fairly and to be able to succeed regardless of your wealth or your gender or your race. You should be given a fair and equal opportunity. So they're 4 important values, and you'll read a bit more about them in what we're going to do next. And that is to go on to our class newsfeed, and you'll see a document that I've posted. Now I might share it now just to avoid any confusion. I don't have it just here, but okay. Let's go to screen. So we'll share the entire screen, and then we'll come out of this share. Ooh. And we'll open one of these, open this up. So what I really mean is, I just might make sure we're on the right thing. Yeah, we are sharing screen. Let's just share Compass to be sure, because this thing can be tricky. So we're going to look here at 7 humanities. Now I haven't quite finished writing up exactly what I want, but I will show you this here, this Thursday Australian values reading. Okay, so in this class newsfeed area, let me scroll past that. This class newsfeed area, Thursday Australian values reading. So we're going to quickly come back to that PowerPoint. So the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is to create a table like this, and in each one have the value. Now there's 6 values in there, so there's 6 spots there. The definition, so look through, read through, find the definition of each of the values, and how you see it in action. So let's try respect. Just pretend we're writing this in, or we could actually write this in. Let's go back to this. So let's go respect. The definition would be to treat somebody fairly and not look down on them. How do you see that in action? So you might see that I treat my parents with respect by using my manners. That could be how you see respect, using manners. So I want you to go through those 6 values in the reading and put them out in the table like this. You can do that on paper or you can do it online. I'm not too fast. Then after that, go through the questions at the bottom of that sheet as well. And finally, if you have finished that and you're looking for something else to do, I'd really like you to look up the values of another country and find out whether they have the same ones or different ones to ours. And here's a few suggestions. You could do Japan, which is a very unique culture. It's very cool. America, which we share a bit with. Iran, which again is very separate from our culture. It's very different language, different dress, much more. When we talked about, yeah, it's a very different state and very different country. And England, where we have a lot in common with, but that's for you to find out what's different. All right, I hope to see you on WebEx, and yeah, see you soon.